Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Tandem Talk Show. I'm your host, Coach G, and today we have another very exciting episode with one of our long-term, amazing rock star clients, Andi Miller. This is Andi's third time on our podcast. I'm so excited to have her on our podcast. The first time she was on, she was around 20, 30 pounds down. Second time, she was down around 45 pounds, and now we're 8 months past the end of her program. And so I just had to reach out to Andi and say, Andi, can we chat more about how things have been going since the end of her program? And now we're here. So Andi, how are you doing today?
I'm good. And I've always got things to say and always got things to talk about because I'll tell anybody who asks how much I love working with you guys.
And this is exactly why I love having you on the podcast, because you have inspired so many people, not only from your hard work, but also because like your story and how weight loss was for you before you joined the program. And so for those who are listening who may not know who you are and maybe your weight loss journey, can you tell us more about what weight loss was like for you before you joined us here at Tandem?
Sure. I am. So I am 58, and I would say I had my first time I'd never been thin, but I gained a lot, probably my early 20s, have a stressful job, gained a lot of weight, kept that for 5, 6 years and lost it probably in a way that lost muscle, just stopped eating. But then a few years later, something stressful happened, gained it back, lost it again, gained it back. So I had, it had kind of crept up since probably 2021. It kind of crept back up, and I was like, I gotta do something, and I've got to stop gaining it back. That was my deal. Like, okay, I know how to lose. I've done macros before and I've lost weight, but I was like, I need to do something now before I turn 60 to get the weight off and keep it off. And so when for some reason your social media post had shown up on my Facebook, had no idea who you were. I knew nobody who had used you before. And I was interested. I read it, thought it was good. And I know we talked, and then I didn't do it originally because I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. And then a few months later, I did it. And I guess we can talk about more from there, but I up and down for 30 years.
Wow. Yeah. And it's so cool how, you went through this journey, and right away, how you mentioned how you had no issue losing weight, but the piece that was missing for you was the ability to kind of keep it off. And I'm kind of curious, Andi, as you were losing weight before the program, did you kind of find that weight loss kind of got gradually more and more difficult for you as you kept trying on your own?
I don't know that it did or not. I've always worked out, I've always gone to the gym. I've always walked. I've lifted some, not as much as I'm lifting now, but I don't know if it took longer or not. Because I remember losing some probably back in 2019, 2020, something like that. And it wasn't difficult, but it came back immediate.
Wow. Okay.
So
So you joined the program and you work with Coach Lisa and still are with, Lisa as well. And walk us through like maybe your first 6 months with us, because I think, as you know, we do things a bit differently than most programs out there, having a 4-phase system. So walk us through what that process was like for you and what you found most helpful too.
we set my calorie goal and my protein goal and my steps, my water. I was tracking all of those things. And I think the first weekend was one of the most important things we did. I was going to something, it was an event, there was going to be food that I didn't know what was going to be there. And I said, I'm just not going to track that. I'll just skip that. And she said, no, track it anyway. And she said, even if you overeat, even if you don't know exactly, track it anyway. And I think that just shifted my mindset right there to say, okay, well, if I'm going to track it, then I'm going to take this turkey instead of this, whatever else, that wasn't as good. Or I'm going to have this fruit for dessert rather than this brown because I know I'm going to track it. Whereas if I wasn't tracking it, who knows what I would have eaten. So then that happened. I followed that through the entire time. And I was more conscientious of social eating. And I think that was probably my biggest problem prior was social eating. because we go out a lot. We go to dinner, we go to things with people, and there's always good food. So by tracking it anyway, it made me more conscious of what I was eating. It made me plan what I was going to eat. So I remember that first month we were going to our friends. It was Halloween. They've got kids, and they're like, "Well, come over. We'll have dinner. The kids will go trick or treating." And I was like, "Oh, what am I going to eat?" And but I remember I made something healthy, and I brought it, and I had a little of whatever they had, but I tracked it, and I knew what I was eating, and that kind of carried on through that first 6 months. And the weight, I think we adjusted in those first few weeks. We had maybe dropped it to get to what the ideal calories were for me. And I stuck at that range. And like your app gives us 150 plus or minus on calories. And I was under almost every day. I don't think there was a day where I was over my calories because I was dialed in. I know it's okay to make a mistake here now and then and start back over, but I was like, I'm in, man. I'm going to spend this year of my life focused and working as hard as I can. So we went that first 6 months and then kind of started tracking up. We did the first metabolic reset then where we upped my calories for a few weeks. I think we went up 200, and then the next couple of weeks we went up 200. And then I had gallbladder surgery in the middle of that. And then not long after that, then we started back and I did another 6 months.
Yeah, that's incredible, Andi. And I know throughout your journey, I know you mentioned how social eating is a pattern for you that you do throughout your schedule. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you and your husband would still have, is it a zip or is it pizza
It's a pizza, yeah.
throughout the week? So tell us about that.
So I'd say there were 3 or 4 places where I knew I could track the calories and macros and knew what I was eating. And those are just when we went out to eat, that's where we went. But we had A's at Pizza every Wednesday for lunch. Went there with friends and we did it before and we just kept up. But they have all of their macros on their website and you could track it. And I could have their kid-sized pizza. I had chicken and bacon and vegetables on it. And I had Diet Coke and Diet Mountain Dew a lot. So I had lots of diet drinks. But I would have that. And the kids' size meal came with a cookie and I gave it to my husband. And so it's not very big. It was maybe a 6-inch pizza and it's really good. And, they're a local franchise. They're local here to Evansville, but they are in other cities too. So it's kind of, I was supporting a local establishment too. And, but the first week on my metabolic reset, I ate that cookie. When I got more calories, I ate that cookie that came with it. But yeah, almost every week I had that ATP.
So every week throughout your fat loss phase, you had almost every week. And then you lost like between 25 and like 29 pounds in your first fat loss phase. And then I watch you throughout your metabolic reset phase. And I think this term is maybe new for a lot of women in terms of like the diet after the diet, because most people just focus on the weight loss thing. And like you hired us because, listen, I have this weight loss thing down. I need help like you keeping it off. And so walk us through like what you experienced throughout the metabolic reset phase that's different than what you've done in the past and how it's helped you keep this weight off.
So we upped my calories. I think the first week it was like 100 or 200. Actually, I think that first week we were actually on vacation that first week. So I'm pretty sure that one day I had some ice cream and the next day I had like one other little thing, so it was just some little things that I added in. And it was like a week or two later, we added another couple hundred calories. And so I would like add little things in, but I was still tracking. So during the metabolic reset, I still tracked, but my calories were higher. And so it was just, I guess, you can explain it better than me, but I feel like it was just training my body to accept those calories and to get back up to my maintenance whereas if I would have went and just started eating at a huge higher level, all of a sudden my body would have been like, what the heck? And started gaining weight. So, and that's what I had done in the past. When I was done dieting, I just went back to eating like I used to, which was too much, which I didn't know what my maintenance calories were. And by the time in that metabolic reset, we worked it to where we were in I knew what my maintenance calories were and I knew about what made that up.
Yeah. And I realized those listening, you were like, hey, what are maintenance calories? What is the metabolic reset? Are these different terms? And just know there's a very like specific way. And like, it's so funny because I say this all the time. We have coaching calls now in our program, but I said this week, even though I became a dietitian and started coaching, they did not teach me this. And so like, we had to learn this like the hard way. I really believe that God was like, hey, here's like a lot of people to work with. Learn from your mistakes, right? Because when I first started coaching, it was 90 days. And women lost like 50 pounds in 90 days, but they all gained weight back. I'm like, this is not right because what I learned is not working. And so it's only because like God and like this experience that we're able to like figure this out. And you did so well too throughout your metabolic reset phase because I think you ended your first fat loss phase around 1,500 calories. And I think you got back up to around 1,900, maybe 2,000. You lost like 3, 4 more pounds. And what's really beautiful about this too is like you started your next fat loss phase at a higher calorie number, doing a little few, like not as many steps. And so that really increased your fat loss potential to drop another 20 or so pounds. Is that right?
Yeah,
21
yeah, I think
pounds?
so. 25. I'm not sure exactly, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I know, a lot of times we say 10,000 steps, but I was like, I didn't want the stress of having to get 10,000 steps. I said,
Mm.
can we just set it lower? I work out, I'm active, I row, things like that. I said, let's just set it lower. If I get to 10,000, great. I said, but that was just a stress level thing that I just didn't want to add. I was like, I know I'm active. Can we do that? And Lisa's like, yeah, we can do that. And had I not been losing, then she might have said no. But I was still active. And so I appreciate that we could be flexible and just not add something that just made it more stressful. Trying like, I got to go out right now and go get those steps. And
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
So
That can be very stressful and just not enjoyable too. We want this process to be enjoyable for you as you kind of learn throughout like eating the pizza and things. And so right now you finished two fat loss phases, two metabolic reset phases. You went through maintenance, intuitive eating. And so your program ended in October of last year, right? And we're roughly 6, 7, like 8 months after that. So yeah, so you lost 50 pounds throughout the program. And what were things like for you once you finished the program and how has your weight changed since then?
So after the program, and I knew what I was eating, it was kind of, I slowly started incorporating a little more. It's like, since I wasn't tracking anymore, I was able to say, okay, I'm going to eat this today and it'll be okay. And it was, and I still lost some weight a little more. Just like the other week, there was a food truck at work, and I was like, I know they have the best French fries. They're so good. And I was like, and they have gyros. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have it today. And whereas the year before, it's like, I didn't do any of that. If we were having a food truck and that was there, actually, I think they were there the year before. And I think I had like a rice bowl with some chicken and some vegetables. And, it was fine. But, but the other week I had a chicken gyro and I had the fries, but I didn't eat all of it. I ate like half of the chicken gyro, did eat all the fries because they wouldn't be good warmed up. But then I ate the rest of it, for another meal. So I still got to get the good stuff. But I'll have the cookies sometimes. I'll have the ice cream sometimes. I have the French fries sometimes, but I don't have them regularly. I still eat a lot of the same breakfast and the same lunch that I ate. Like I've added a piece of toast with my protein oatmeal, and and during the fat loss phase, I had a turkey sandwich on one piece of bread. Well, now I have two pieces of bread, and I don't exactly count my pretzels that I have with it. So there's that freedom, but my snacks are still the same. I still have a protein shake or a protein bottle in the morning, and I usually have a 000 yogurt in the afternoon, but I put some more things in it, just like I might have some cocoa almonds with it or some chocolate chips with it, just things to make it because I can have one now. So,
Yeah. And the cool thing is too, from eating those foods and even eating more throughout the last 8 months, it sounds like you even lost more weight, around 9 or so pounds since you ended the program. So despite struggling with yo-yo dieting for like 30 or so years, like this has been something that's been really sustainable for you. And so I have three quick questions. Number one, what part of the program do you feel like has helped you the most, that has helped you really keep this weight off this time for good? What was it about this program that made it different?
I guess the metabolic reset for sure, because it made me more aware of what I need to eat when I'm done. So that was good. And the fact that I was still in my time with you guys, like we spent the last 6 weeks building up to that. So it wasn't just like, okay, here's what you need to do when you're done. Go ahead. It was, we spent 6 weeks when I was still working with Lisa building to that. So I think that was probably the most important.
I love that. Yes, there's a very like a set of steps to go through, and you were so consistent, you worked so hard, and I can just tell that that year was a year that you're going all in on yourself, and it paid off absolutely. So my other question is, I hear women all the time say, I've done macros before, but they don't really work for me. From your experience you've had in the program, how would you address that?
And one thing that we said when I talked to you the first time is you said you don't have to play macro Tetris. You can just concentrate on the calories and the protein, and the fat and the carbs will follow along for the most part. They will follow along. And in the app, when I put my food in, I only worried about calories and protein, but I could still see the fat and the carbs on it, and they did. They followed along. So, I mean, every now and then the carbs were a little high. Every now and then the fat was a little high or even too low. But I had focused on protein, carbs, and fat in the past and didn't focus on calories. So the people that I had worked with 15 years ago had told me that. And so this time focusing on calories, I think just calories and protein made a big difference. So
that's a great response. Yes. And I would say that along with like she's literally like a macro magician. I don't see how she does what she does. I'm like, Lisa, how are you getting your clients? Like when I was a coach, like when I was coaching full time, like I didn't even get clients this great results. And so I'm like, Lisa, what are you doing exactly? And I think the thing that like makes like her coaching and like our coaches coaching different is that we're able to assess where you're at in your progress and make those adjustments. Because a lot of people think that the calorie goal you start at will be the calorie goal you end at, but it doesn't work like that. So having those adjustments, and so that's why coachability is so important, because you had to decrease calories throughout your fat loss phase and then also decrease or increase in your metabolic reset phase. And so I wish all clients were like you in terms of like, or I wish you had more clients like you in terms of like consistency and communication and coachability, because it's not very easy to eat more calories, because like for years we're taught eating more means gaining more, but you even lost throughout those periods of increasing calories.
Yeah, a couple of my friends that have done the program, both of them are, well, I've had lots and lots of friends do the program, but I can remember two specifically as they were entering their first metabolic reset. They're like, I don't want to eat more calories. This is scary. But they did it and it was fine. But I can remember people saying that I wasn't worried about it. I was excited to get to eat some more calories because I do like food. So, but it wasn't scary to me because I trusted the process.
Absolutely. I know you have to go in here in a second, Andi. So one last final question for you is, there's always people who are very interested in like getting some help and support, and maybe they heard about us on YouTube or Instagram, and they are maybe kind of pulled into our kind of what we do as a team, but maybe they're on the fence about, hey, can this team really help me? Is what they have like, are they a scam? All these things. So what if someone's on the fence right now and was kind of interested in like getting some help and they were struggling with yo-yo dieting, what are two pieces of advice that you would give them?
Well, one thing I would say is that it's worth it if you can afford it. I mean, it's not cheap. There's no doubt about it. You're making an investment in yourself. If you can afford it, it's worth it. Do it. But you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to put in the work. And so I probably had maybe 10 friends who have done it. And I'd say 7 or 8 of them were ready and did a great job. But you can't just like go half at it. It's not going to work. So
Yeah.
You got to be ready to put in the work, focus, and there are going to be things that you can't do that maybe you want to do. You've got to find ways around it. If you've got a lot of activities, a lot of celebrations, you got to figure out a way to do those and stay in your calorie goals, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Being committed and being ready are so important in making that behavior change and lifestyle change like you did because I'm just look back on your journey. I love every month how you post about your journey, you give us updates, and it's just so cool how you went through from day one to through the end of the program. And now here you're here today. So I you're down even like even more weight. And but what's really important to me, Andy, is that you've kept this weight off for good. And like this is a first. So I'm just so proud of you. And I know that Lisa and our team are all just elated and just so proud of you too. And so before we wrap up today, are there any other things you want to share with those listening today?
I think I've hit most everything. I really appreciated my time with you guys. It was a whole year. I did a whole year, and it's one of the best things I've done. It made me think about lifting heavier, whereas before, I would lift, but I wasn't thinking about lifting heavier. Now I lift heavier, and I can see the muscles that I always said there was some muscles underneath that fat. Well, now there's more muscles, and I can see them now. So
Amazing.
everything about it was good. I would have nothing bad to say.
Aw. Well, Andy, we appreciate you. And maybe this time next year, we can hop back on another Zoom to see how you are, how things are going a year for, I have no doubt that have maintained your weight or even lost more. But just thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all the support you give in our community and just for impacting so many people too, indirectly with you sharing posts. And like you are the one client who's brought more women to us than anyone else. So thank you so
Good.
much for just making a big impact in your community as well.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you want to learn more about our Metabolic Reset program, find me on Instagram and DM me Reset, and I'd be more than happy to share more about if this program could be a good fit for you too.